A very warm welcome to all of you once again in the afternoon session of this summer school. We have with us one of the very reputed agroforesters of our country who has worked a lot in tropical agroforestry research and extension, Dr. T.K. Kunhamo. I don't think he needs any introduction, but I have been given the responsibility of introducing our resource person before all of you. The topic the sir has chosen is a very interesting one. I myself was very confused during my graduation days so far as the definition or the concept of home gardens and homestead agroforestry is concerned. And I had the pleasure of listening to sir's lecture during one of the conferences. I think he has explained everything meticulously regarding all aspects of tropical home gardens. And I expect from the participants a wholehearted post presentation interaction with our respected speaker. Uh, Before he starts his lecture, I would like to brief his biodata. Sir is presently Associate Director of Research, Forestry, as well as Professor and Head of Department of Silviculture and Agroforestry, College of Forestry, Kerala Agriculture University. Sir has a number of publications in scientifically acclaimed and reputed journals, more than 50. And the good thing I liked about Dr. T.K. Kanhomu sir is that he has presented his work in very reputed international conferences, particularly World Agroforestry Conference, which is one of its kind so far as agroforestry is concerned. Sir has presented his work in the Second World Congress of Agroforestry that was held in Nairobi. Then we had Third World Congress of Agroforestry held in New Delhi. Sir also presented his work in Fourth World Agroforestry Congress in 2019 in France. Sir also presented his work in IFRO World Congress that was held in USA. Besides this, Sir has a number of books to his credit and number of articles, book chapters, and he has presented in his work in other conferences. And his main area of work is tropical agroforestry, tropical home gardens, structures and functions of litter dynamics, and other aspects like quantitative silviculture, forest stand dynamics. So I would not take much time. Uh, I think this is the right time, and I urge all the participants to listen to this presentation very attentively. Maximum number of participants are have joined. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your gracious presence. At a very short notice, I just called you an hour back. Uh, Basically, this was a scheduled lecture of another resource person, but he had some medical emergency. But this engagement of yours is the testament of your scientific temper and ethics that you uh, respected our call and joined us. You are very busy. You had a meeting already with your colleagues in your area of work, but you have chosen to join us. You are a very prolific teacher and you have guided a number of students. I hope this lecture will be very helpful for our participants. The floor is all yours, sir. You may start your presentation, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
you, thank you very much, Dr. Suhail Ahmed, for giving me an elaborate account of my credentials. Thank you so much. I think I'm audible to you, all of you, isn't it?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Hello?
Yes, you are audible and slides are also visible. You can
Okay,
proceed, sir.
okay, thank you very much. So, first and foremost, let me extend my thanks to Dr. Suhail and his colleagues. I know that you are undergoing a 21 days summer school on sustainable agroforestry interventions for diversification and environmental amelioration. And of course, I had a scheduled pertaining to the topic carbon neutral farming. But my close friend and colleague, when they make a request, I cannot deny that. So I'm so happy to be here in front of you all. It is organized by ICR, Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute, Regional Research Station, Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, now coming to my topic, I will be. Sushilji, what is the time left for me?
Sir, up to 3:30, you can conclude, and then we will be having an answer and question session.
Okay. So I'll be quickly go through my topic. I'm going to discuss about the tropical home gardens, promising nature-based solution for agroecosystems. Probably many of you might have heard about the term home garden. And this picture, I don't know how far it is clear to you. Probably, I have been searching for a better picture for showing the home gardens, and I could not get a much better picture other than this. This, in fact, I don't know how many of you know, this in fact has been taken from a Malayalam film called Drishyam. There is a Malayalam film called that, and this clip is from that picture. Okay, so but it very well denotes what exactly is meant by a tropical home garden structurally, right? So that's why I have quoted this picture. I have taken this picture to demonstrate it, what is a home garden. Now, before we jump into the home gardens, their structural and functional attributes and other things, I would like to give you some of the highlights about the kind of plight through which our agroecosystems are passing through. We have been having different kinds of challenges during different times in the world. From time immemorial, if you look at the historical aspects of agriculture, you can see man has been confronting with all kinds of vagaries, and man had his own solutions for combating all those issues. But now that we have been coming across with a multitude of problems of whose solutions often are not able to be tackled by mankind, because the enormity of the challenges are so much high. Probably one of the most important one, as all of you know, is the climate change, right? So the climate change and its impacts on our agriculture sector is manifold, and we are still finding out solutions to tackle this issue. That's why I have quoted home garden as a promising nature-based solution, because we are at all walks of human life, we are looking into nature-based solutions for solving our problems, because they are the ones which always are more dependent, more reliable, rather than the artificial solutions which we make, which may have its own impacts or the repercussions. Well, I would, in this slide, what I'm going to do is that the unprecedented changes in the climate is happening everywhere. If you look at those regions, for example, in Kerala itself, probably you may be aware that 2018 had witnessed one of the worst floods in our state. Kerala is often called as the God's own country, but 2018, the whole picture has been changed. Now, no longer Kerala is a God's own country, because the climatic vagaries are so high. And this year we had extreme temperature during the summer, which shooted up to 42 degrees Celsius, which was never happened in the history of Kerala. So these are the kind of changes that are happening across the world. And recently, you might have heard in Dubai, there was severe rainfall and severe floods were there. So those areas where there was no floods are being invited by floods and other things. Those areas where good rainfall was there was a lot of decline in the rainfall. So the entire gamut of the agrarian cycle is undergoing tremendous change. So if you look at this photograph, this slide, you can see that on one side we have the forest, on the other side we have the agroecosystems. If you look at the whole Indian perspective, you can see mountain ranges. For example, in the southern side we have two major mountain ranges. One is the Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats, right? And the agricultural prosperity of the entire South India is dependent upon the prosperity of these two mountain ranges. Similarly, if you look at the northern side of India, you can see that Himalayas have got a larger role to play on the prosperity of the the agroecosystem. If you take in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, if you take any part of Indian Tarai Belt, for example, where all you can see the forests play a significant role in maintaining the stability of agroecosystem. So forests and agroecosystems are inseparably connected. This knowledge, this understanding has come very recently to our notice, because we treated forests separately, we treated agriculture land separately, and we never thought that there is some kind of connectivity between these two. So you can see that our forest health is declining. Unusual kind of issues are happening in the forest. You can see our regulating services of the forest, because the forest, in addition to the direct benefits, the regulating or the indirect benefits, we call them as ecosystem services. The forests are meant for providing ecosystem services, because we don't expect the forest to give other tangible benefits, even though we maintain forests primarily for deriving tangible benefits. But if you look at the from the ecological perspective, the most important delivery of any forest is ecosystem services. And if I'm asked which among the ecosystem services is the most important ecosystem service provided by the forest, I would say it is water. Water, the hydrological functions of the forest are the major reasons for providing us the water required for our agriculture. Any shattering or any vagaries in these hydrological functions will have its direct impact on the agroecosystems. So if you want to have a healthy agroecosystem, you need to have a healthy forest. That's very important. Soil health and pest and disease management, which are all very, very, very closely related. And if you look at the totality of the health of our forest, we say that our forests have been protected, a lot of conservation measures are happening. But do you think that the forests are fully protected? Or are they healthy? The health of the forest is decided by very many factors. They should be able to provide us with all ecological services with the topmost priority to water availability to the agroecosystem. Continuous availability of water is the most important function, and water definitely through the rivers only, because rivers are originating from the forest. Any undesirable change that happen in the forest will have its repercussions on the hydrological functions, and definitely there will be a gross decline in the water yield from the forest, and that could also lead to when the rivers are gone out, mostly you can see that their water holding capacity will be reduced. That will lead to flash floods. So a continuum is the most important thing. Pest and disease, livelihood and the nutritional security of the forest dwellers. That's also a very important thing. Now, if you come back to agroecosystems or agriculture lands, agriculture lands are facing large number of issues. Decline in the agrarian prosperity, because everywhere you can see the agriculture lands are suffering from so many issues. Decline in the productivity is probably one of the most important things, and input costs are increasing day by day. If you look at for the past 30 years, our input, especially the fertilizer inputs, has increased by 300%. 300% increase in the fertilizer inputs has happened. So what I'm going to say is that the inherent potential of the agriculture land or the agriculture soils has gone down substantially. Their ecological resiliency, whenever climate change like issues come into the picture, our agriculture land should be resilient. Resilient means they must be able to combat the change. They must be able to counteract the impact of climate change. But unfortunately, you can see that even when a small issue comes, a small flash flood comes, that shatter the agriculture land too much. And in Kerala itself, in 2018 floods, the loss from the agriculture sector alone was about 40,000 crores. You can see the enormity of the situation. So the dwindling soil health, all these are the most important thing that's happening. So we need to think about different things from a different perspective. The ecological degradation is happening rampant, especially in the face of the changing climate. It is happening at a much alarming pace. You can see the forest ecosystem is dwindling or is degrading. And agroecosystem is also, because there is a strong connectivity between the forest ecosystem and agriculture ecosystem. So when the forest ecosystem fades, that will have its own implications on the agroecosystem as well, right? So what is needed is that we need to enhance the resilience of both the systems, the forest ecosystem and the agroecosystem. So enhancing the resilience so that whenever climatic vagaries come, the forest system and the agroecosystem should be able to repair it and adapt to it so fast, so that its impacts are very much reduced. So this is the point where we need to focus much. So that means that resilience can only be achieved through eco restoration or ecological restoration, because our agriculture lands have already been subjected to quite a lot of vagaries, but we never make any attempt to restore them. But restore means not a short-term restoration, but I'm focusing about a long-term restoration, bringing them back to their old resilience or old productivity levels. This is what is the most important thing we should look at. So what is the solution with us? We have in the center, you can see nature-based solutions. In the center, you can see nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions means there are nature-based solutions which can be adopted or followed so that these issues, especially the decline in the productivity of forest ecosystem and agriculture ecosystems, can be reduced. So what eventually required is that we need to look at beyond the forest boundaries. The forest department personnel are only concerned about those forest land within the boundaries. But those forests, those trees beyond the forest boundaries have got a larger role to play. So that is the focus of today's presentation. Need for a paradigm shift. We need to shift towards what is the kind of change which is required. You can see these photographs, you can see we need to go towards a land use practice that enhances the ecological resilience of agroecosystems and coastal agroecosystems. So we need to go for a planning. We need to for a planning that should have a landscape level approach. That is maintenance of the continuity. We need to go for a landscape level approach. I don't know how many of you know about landscape level approach. The planning should be at landscape level. Earlier, the planning were focused only on some particular areas. For example, if some repair to be or for some damage happen in a particular forest division, we do the repair practice there itself. But we don't go in search of what was the reason for that particular damage. For example, if a landslide happens in a particular area, there is no point in repairing that landslide, but we need to focus upon what was the reason for that particular landslide. Probably the landslide could have originated from the unscientific land use practices which you do in the uphills. In the uphill region, probably you may go for in Kerala itself. I can know there were abandoned rubber plantations which were heavily converted into, which were felled, and the whole landscape was unearthed by means of that earth mover JCB. That led to one of the largest landslide in Kerala that led to the death toll of about 120 people. The major reason was the unscientific land use practices which we followed above. So what is needed is that our approach should be a kind of landscape level approach. For example, here in the middle, you can see a river is flowing. Can you see that? A river is flowing. And on either side of the river, you can see a very thick forest vegetation. And they are called riparian buffers. I don't know how many of you know about riparian buffers. Riparian buffers are very, very unique kind of vegetation, which are very closely associated with along the banks of the rivers. And these vegetation are so much specialized that they can arrest any kind of floods. They stabilize the river sides. They stabilize the river sides all the time. So that is such kind of riparian buffers should be maintained. If you look at the forest in the river, if you look at any river, for example, you take any river, you take the Ganges or you take any other river for that matter, almost like 50, almost 20 to 30% of the river is passing through the forest because it is originating from the forest. But you should also understand that almost 70% of that river is passing through the agriculture land or agroecosystems. And in the forest, these kinds of buffers, they are called the riparian buffers, are very intact because they are naturally developed. And inside the forest, the river is very much intact and there is no floods, nothing, because they are protected by the riparian buffers. But what happens to these rivers the moment they jump out of the forest boundary? The moment they go to the agriculture lands, all these riparian buffers has been totally vanished. And the people have encroached the river sides in such a manner that there is absolutely no connectivity, or there is no absolute. So the connectivity which was there in the forest as buffers has been lost the moment it goes to the agroecosystems. But if you go to European rivers, if you go to any other rivers, you can see that actually this is not an Indian river, this is a European river, where you can see they have how beautifully they have maintained the riparian buffers. And on either side, you can see the agriculture lands. So there will not be any flash floods. So this is what is a typical example for the landscape level management, because forests and the rivers are a part of the landscape, and they have to maintain their continuity from the top till they reach the ocean. So this is very important. So we need to look at nature-based solutions, promotion of tree-based land use practices, because trees have got enormous potential to combat all these kinds of vagaries, right? So that's very important. Now we will go to tropical home gardens. Tropical home gardens are nothing but the the kind of unique kind of a tree-dominated vegetation that are available around the premises of a house. Tree-dominated vegetation which are sprawling around the premises of a house. It could be a small home garden like about 20 to 30 cents or less than 20 cents, or it could be a medium home garden with about 50 cents, or it could be a large commercial home garden having more than 1 acre. So there are different kinds of home gardens available. So these are all time-tested, unique, traditional land use practices. So if you look at them, you can see that they are traditional. These home gardens are not developed on a fine morning. Because of the tree component, high tree component, the home owner or his forefather or his forefather or his many previous generations may have contributed to the development of that home garden. That is why it is called a time-tested, unique, traditional land use practice. Finest example of coupled human and natural systems. This is one of the most sought after example of coupled human and natural system, because it is just a home garden looks like a natural forest. If you look for a home garden from a distance, you can see it looks like a natural forest with a multi-tier, with the different kinds of tree species and the crops. So it is mimicking the nature. It is mimicking the nature too. That's why it's called a coupled human natural system. It is evolved through many generations of crop intensification. And if you look at the biodiversity, again, you can see home garden is a typical example of biodiversity. See, I said about the landscape level approach. See, if you look at the forest boundary, till the boundary, the forest is giving you a lot of diversity. A lot of diversity. But the moment you cross the forest boundary, there is a gross deterioration in the diversity. The tree diversity is because in the agricultural land, you don't expect a forest diversity. But what is meant is that you should have some mechanism, some arrangement, some kind of a system which maintain at least some amount of the diversity which we expect in a forest. Probably tropical home gardens are a typical example of that kind of a system which maintains some kind of diversity, even though not much comparable with that of a forest, because diversity and productivity are very closely related, whether it is agroecosystem or whether it is forest ecosystem. In agroecosystem, why you have so much of issues when you go for continuous production of the monocrops? The soil inherent fertility status will be completely drained, and you will have to dump with a huge quantity of inorganic fertilizers. But if you have trees, If you have agroforestry systems there, the trees will contribute substantially to enrich the agriculture productivity. So probably home garden is a typical example of that. So that's why I said it is epitome of biodiversity. Intimate multi-story combination of trees, crops, and sometimes in association with the domestic animals. If you look at the delivery from the home gardens, you can see they supply almost 30 to 44% of the total calorific value, and 4 to 32% of the protein intake. So there, the home gardens meet the nutritional requirements of the people. They meet the wood requirements of the people, and they are the principal source of fuel wood for rural households. Almost 51 to 90% of the rural household fuel wood requirements are met exclusively by the home gardens. And definitely, in the present day climate change scenario, we need to develop woody ecosystems or tree-based systems. But you can see that the home gardens are working as one of the best sink of carbon, because you can see I will show you some of the data on the how much of carbon is sequestered by the home gardens. Climate change mitigation and adaptation are the most important things, which that's why we call the home gardens as a typical nature-based solution. Okay, but there are a lot of socio-economic changes are happening. These unique systems are being highly manipulated by the man, and a lot of demographic pressure is happening. Resurgence in protecting this unique but fast disappearing agro ecosystem across the world. So we need to develop new strategies for protecting this unique ecosystem. Now, coming to the global distribution of the home gardens, home gardens are typically found across the globe on the tropical belt, 23-degree north, 23.5-degree north, and 23.5-degree south. And if you closely examine, they are mostly found on either side of 10-degree, on either side of the equator. You can see in Indian part also we have some home gardens towards the Kerala part, and of course in Sri Lanka you have, but in the South America and tropical regions of Indonesia, will find the home gardens. Unfortunately, home gardens are located in those countries which are maybe from the economic point of view, they are all at a very, very poor backdrop. Of course, India is a progressive country, but many other countries, if you look at their progress, is very limited. So they have a negative connotation with their economic status. Well, distribution of the tropical home gardens, they are found all along the coastal regions in the humid tropics, not only in the coastal regions, but they also extend beyond the coastal regions in many parts. Humid regions of South and Southeast Asia, probably Java, you might have heard about Javanese home gardens. They are very much popular. Just like Kerala home gardens, Javanese home gardens are very popular. They are found in Philippines, they are found in Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, of course. Pacific Islands, Caribbean Islands, and the tropical Central and South America, and tropical Africa. And the coastal home garden tracts in India mainly include coastal Kerala, Karnataka, Konkan belt of the Goa, Maharashtra, and the coastal Odisha. You have plenty of home gardens. West Bengal also you have plenty of home gardens. And home gardens are normally known by different names colloquially or locally. For example, the Javanese home gardens in Indonesia are called Talangke Bun or Pekarangan. Talangke Bun or Pekarangan. So Pekarangan is the common name for Javanese home gardens. Whereas Samba and Chaga home gardens in East Africa, there are Chaga home gardens. It is run by the Chaga tribe. Okay, and you also have Hortus familiaris. This is a Central America. Hortus familiaris, that is Central America. In Kerala, we call it Puraida Krishi. Puraida means house. Krishi means Krishi. So house Krishi by the Sri Lankans. So people locally they put different names, but they are all alike. Now coming to the dimensions of a home garden, you can see the home gardens do have 3 dimensions. One is they are socially compatible, ecologically sound, and economically viable. These are the 3 pillars of the home garden: social, ecological, and economic. And in between, in the junction point, you can see sustainability comes, because these three things will join together at some point where home gardens are the best solutions. So sustainability can only be achieved by social, ecological, and economic viability. Coming to the amazing functional diversity of the home gardens, I can tell you the home gardens give you so much of diversity because they give you food crops, they give you vegetables, they give you livestock, they give you cash crops, they give you tree crops, and which are all centered around the house. So the house labor, you can see the cross feedback between all these components, because the labor, the family holder itself himself is the labor, family including the children, inputs are made. Inputs are very less, and human resource are also very less. That is why it makes it one of the most outstanding self-sustainable ecosystem in the world. Well, let us look at the characteristics of the home gardens. They are structural, functional, managerial, and home garden dynamics. Structurally, structure of a home garden means their size, species richness, and evenness, and their plant density. These are the things which comes under the structure. What is the size of the home garden, and what is the species richness of the home garden, and evenness. How many species are there? How many individuals are there belonging to each species? What is the plant diversity? Okay. Now, the functional is something related to the delivery from the home gardens. What is the purpose for which we are maintaining the home garden, or what you get from the home garden? This is what is called the functional role. Functional groups and their diversity and their abundance. For example, if you look at the functional diversity, you can see timber is a functional diversity. Fodder is a functional group. Timber, within the timber itself, you may have 10 species of timber species. Another home garden may be having 5 species of timber species. Another home garden may be having only 2 species of timber species. Now you come to fruit trees. It is another functional group, where one home garden may be having 10 or 12 species of fruit trees. So home gardens vary with respect to the fruit trees, because these are components which were planted by the family holders or the forefathers from time immemorial, and that crop has been intensified. Wherever space available, they will go and plant something, and that finally taken into the shape. So many of the home gardens, I can tell you, even there is a home garden near to our Kerala Agriculture University, which is a large home garden. I can see, I have using my children, my boys, students, I made a study, and we could identify 20 more than 20, I'm sorry, 50 functional utility classes were obtained from that home garden. 50, just like timber, fodder, fuel, medicinal, then you have spices, all these categories. Management, intensity, space arrangement, and the use of inputs. Normally, home gardens are less managed. Not much effort has been taken to, because it is mimicking just like a natural system. So efforts are very less. Home garden dynamics, that changes the home garden size, vegetation structure, introduction of the new species, changes in the ornamental and the medicinal plants, changes in the spatial arrangement, because home garden is very closely connected with your socio-economic life, right? So from time immemorial, our socio-economic lifestyle is changing, our attitudes and preferences are changing accordingly, which will be reflected in the home garden also. So an older home garden probably may be focusing more on timber, but now you can see that most of the home gardens are focusing much on fruit trees, ornamental plants, and spices and other things. So depending upon the changes in the attitude of the people, home garden characteristics also get changed. If you look at the structural and the functional features of the home gardens, typically they constitute multi-strata. It looks like this photograph you can see. That looks like in the top canopy you have a top canopy, and you have a middle canopy, and you have a lower canopy. So the stratum is the upper stratum, middle stratum, and the lower stratum. Upper stratum normally consists of commercially important timber species, like timber species like teak, rosewood, mahogany, and even coconut. Coconut also forms the topmost canopy, right? And the middle canopy is the medium-sized fruit trees, because fruit trees are all medium-sized. They will not attain, except for some mango species which are very tall. Traditional mango trees are there, but normally almost all the fruit trees are coming under the middle size category. And then the lower stratum probably the most vibrant stratum is the lower stratum, where shade tolerant agriculture crops and herbaceous perennials are operating. Shade tolerant herbaceous perennials are, because the upper stratum you have a timber species, middle stratum you have the fruit trees, and in the lower stratum probably you have species which are very much closely related to the man or the home gardener, like almost all the agriculture crops. Shade tolerant agriculture crops are grown in the lower stratum. So there you will find spice trees, medicinal. So the function, if you look at the functional, shade tolerant agriculture crops and herbaceous perennials are grown. So from the functional point of view, you can see in general timber, fruit trees, fodder trees, spices, medicinal plants, fuel wood trees, green manure trees, and ornamental trees, herbs, shrubs. You can see an array of trees and the plants very closely and very intimately connected. And that's why they are called integrated farming. It's a typical example of an integrated farming, because the tree, crop, and animal components, these are the three components, they are very, very intimately connected. This is a structure of a coastal home garden. You can see the structure. They have got different stories. For example, this is a Kerala home garden. You can see in the top canopy, you have a timber species, and then you have a coconut, and in that's the top canopy is about 15 to 20 meter. Fifth story, coconut. Fourth story, you have arecanut and jack. And in the third story, 5 to 10 meter, mango, cashew nut, and tamarind. In the second story, you have 2 to 5 meter, spice trees, nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, etc. And in the lowest story, that is up to 2 meters, mostly vegetables and spices like turmeric, ginger, which are all shade tolerant crops. Now, coming to the floristic diversity of the various home gardens, you can see the coastal, the various Kerala home gardens, Mizoram, Upper Assam, coastal Maharashtra, Andaman. You can see almost all these areas. The total, I'll talk about the total. Kerala home garden is having a very high total of 473 crops, 473 tree species. Whereas when that comes to other countries, it's less. Coastal Maharashtra is relatively less. Java, again, as compared to Javanese home gardens, Kerala is competing with Java. 602 species have been reported from the Javanese home gardens. Now, coming to the functional diversity, I talked about, I hope you what is meant by functional diversity. It is nothing but diversity which gives you some function to the people. Okay, just like timber, fodder. Timber is one functional diversity. Fodder is another. Fruit is another. Likewise. So the timber, you can see these are the same. I'm not going to read all these. There are many species coming under the fruit trees. I mean, in the timber category. Probably fruit trees. I'm giving a very small list only. You have more species coming under this, which vary with location. And understory crops: bottle gourd, cucumber, cowpea, okra, brinjal, tomato, chili, amaranthus. Then other shade tolerant crops like taro. You are also going for your ginger, turmeric, then wild turmeric. Then you have kasturi turmeric. There are many kinds of species which can be grown. This is a functional diversity of the home gardens. Again, root and tuber crops. It is the biggest contribution from the root and big tuber crops, which are highly nutritious. Other fruit crops, fruit and nut yielding perennials, spices. So there is an array of combinations of trees and crops can be seen in the home gardens. You can see the number of species and the home garden size. This is a very interesting relationship. You can see when the home garden size increases, the species diversity was found to decrease. It's a very interesting aspect. This study was done by us in Kerala Agricultural University. We could see that when the home garden size increases, the diversity decreases. What could be the probable reason for this? It's very simple. Smaller home gardens have got a very high dependence on the home garden. So they will plant all kinds of possible plants which are useful to them, and they will make it as part of their dietary requirements. Whereas when the size of the home garden increases, the socio-economic status of the people also increases, their buying power increases. Okay, so they don't depend much on the home gardens for their dietary needs. They rather use the home garden for making some plantations, coconut plantation or arecanut plantation. So the diversity will decrease when the size of the home garden increases. This is a very interesting aspect. These are the main home garden products which are available, like jackfruit, just like you have turmeric is there, you have other many other, you have black pepper is there, and many other fruit trees are also there, which can nutmeg is there. Okay. So rambutan is there, and in addition to that, timber. Probably the farmer is much concerned about the timber. And if you look at the timber generation from the home gardens, I will show that particular slide. You will not believe that home gardens there was a study in Kerala to look at what was the timber production from Kerala. The entire Kerala timber production was assessed, and then the source was assessed. Which source give you the maximum timber? And it was interesting to see that the home gardens give you almost 80% of the wood requirement of the state, whereas the forest department contribution to the wood requirement of the state is only less than 5%. Less than 5%. The forest department plantations give only less than 5%, but the wood requirements of the state, it is more or less the same with the country. The farmlands and the agricultural lands give you more wood than the forest plantations. So this is a very interesting woody species diversity. Again, you can see the woody species diversity in the home gardens. Kerala is having a reasonably high value of 127 woody taxa. 127 woody taxa has been identified from Kerala. Sri Lanka is less, but Pekarangan or the Javanese home garden, it is very high, 199. Well, early studies, we did quite a lot of studies on the home gardens of Kerala. We also studied many other home gardens, and some of our results, like total woody tree species 127, woody taxa is about 39, and standing stock of timber in the home gardens comes to about 50 cubic meter per hectare. Standing stock of fuel wood is about 23 to 86, and Simpson's diversity index is very close to the evergreen forest. It comes to about 0.7 to 0.8. So this is very interesting. And a vertical structure of the home gardens, you can see the highest number of diversity for the relatively frequency of the number of species. The highest number of species, almost 67 to 70% of the trees, the diversity is located in the base floor or in the understory. And you can see the second story, you have around about 40%. Whereas in the 2 to 5 meter story, third story, you have around less than 25%. Likewise, it goes. So you can see that highest diversity is always occupying in the lowermost strata. Coconut-based home gardens, I don't know whether you are interested in the coconut-based home gardens, the coastal regions of Kerala, Karnataka. Coconut and arecanut are the most prominent species, but we grow large number of tree species like Elanthus, Mangifera, Artocarpus. Artocarpus is jackfruit, jack. Tamarindus, it's a very important culinary component of our country. Erythrina, Macaranga peltata, Thespesia, Glaris. So these are all important tree species. So it offers the farmer with whenever the farmer is at stake, there will be the farmer can cut 1 or 2 trees so that his immediate financial issue will be resolved. So fruit trees, there are a large number of tree species. Species mixed in a coconut home garden in Kerala. You can see how many species are there in this particular slide itself. Large number of tree species. The coconut is there, arecanut is there, and black pepper is there, right? So these are the typical coconut and arecanut dominated coastal home gardens. You can see multi-strata combination of various components. See coconut in the top, you have nutmeg and other crops, arecanut in the bottom, and you have the musa, or you have the plantains which are located in the lowermost part. So this forms a very healthy ecosystem around the home. This is a typical home garden. In fact, this photograph I have taken from Goa. We had an international seminar at Goa at ICR complex, ICR Institute, where I have taken this particular photograph. Now you can see that the functional diversity among the various home gardens in Kerala. This is a typical example in Kerala. You can see that the diversity is very closely related to the people's preferences. For example, the earlier home gardens in Kerala were dominated with the timber species. Here also you can see timber species are there, but there is an enormous increase in the fruit plants in the recent times, because people's attitude towards fruits have increased substantially, and quite a lot of this fruits, exotic fruits, are also nowadays coming into the Kerala context. Uh, this is a nutritional contribution of the home gardens. You can see which are all the crops and what are all the nutritional demands met by these crops. I'm not going to the details of all those things. Well, the ecosystem services, there are basically four major kind of ecosystem services. They are economic, ecological, regulating, and social, and socio-cultural services. And almost, even though not all, home gardens are able to provide a reasonable amount of services, especially the ecological. Probably their role in regulating services is more important in the present context, especially with respect to the carbon storage, climate regulation, and adapting to the climate change, becoming more and more resilient to the climate change. So these kind of regulatory mechanisms are very much prominent in the hostage. These are the various ecosystem services rendered by the forest. Regulating services, you can see. Provisioning services, of course, they are the most important one, because the farmer is maintaining a home garden for deriving benefits, especially economic returns, money returns. In addition to that, they also meet their dietary requirements for the home gardens. So in a way, they reduce or they save quite a lot of money, which they usually spend in the market, right? So that surplus they will be definitely having with respect to their family financial status. Regulating services, supporting services, cultural services, etc. Now this is the one which I have mentioned a little bit earlier. See, here you can see this picture gives you the wood production scenario in Kerala. Here you can see almost 35% of the wood requirements of the state is met by home garden alone, and rubber plantations give you another 46%. So home garden, and because these two comes under TYF, trees outside the forest. So if you look at the trees outside the forest, you can see that it comes to around 80%. 80%. And the small green, that is 1.6%, represent the forest. So the forest department's contribution towards meeting the wood requirements is only less than 2%. So this is the point where we need to focus much on the home gardens, because they are one of the repository of the timber needs of the state, of the country. So soil productivity. So what is required is that we need to, why is home gardens are so important is that they do a lot of functional roles, like protecting the soil, nutrient cycling, because there are a large number of trees. For example, this is it's a typical forest ecosystem, a typical agriculture ecosystem, a typical agroforestry ecosystem. In the forest ecosystem, you can see it's a very tight nutrient cycling, because the roots are so deep. They function as, it's called a safety net. They function as a safety net, and they protect the soil nutrients from leaching, water from leaching down. And they also help in the nutrient pumping, because a lot of nutrients which are in the underneath, maybe 5 to 6 meters down, are taken to the up through the leaves. So a very efficient nutrient cycling mechanism is operating in the forest. But look at the agriculture system, which is a leaky system where you don't find any of these benefits. Whatever inputs you make in agriculture system, because of the lack of trees, they are not being conserved, and they'll be lost within no time. So this is what is the fate of all our agriculture systems. Because of the absence of the tree component, the nutrient and water and mineral conservation is not managed, or the soil conservation is not possible. So we need to learn so many things from the forest ecosystem, and we need to transfer them into the agriculture ecosystem. There comes the significance of agroforestry, where we deliberately plant trees in the farmlands. And home gardens is a typical example of that. We deliberately plant trees so that the advantages which we partly, not all the advantages, because we cannot make our agricultural lands a forest, but some of the lessons we learn from the forest can be transferred to that agro ecosystems, so that they become more and more sustainably viable. So above ground biomass, carbon stocks, we did a lot of studies on the carbon stocks. Of course, this study is not ours, but we can see small home gardens, medium home gardens, large home gardens. You can see it's very interesting to see that the above ground carbon stock is very high in small home gardens. Why? That's a very important question, because small home gardens are very smaller in size. But when you convert on per hectare basis, you can see that the carbon content in the above ground biomass, and not only the below ground also, that I will show later. The reason is that the diversity is very closely related to the carbon dynamics. The more diverse, the more will be the carbon status. Now, this is a typical example of the soil organic carbon content in the whole soil up to 1 meter soil depth. Here you can see the above ground biomass. Above ground, it is about 2.46 megagrams per hectare per year. Whereas below ground, it's about 144, 229 megagrams per hectare. And now you see this system. This is a very interesting study which we did in our university in collaboration with the University of Florida. One of the students from the Florida did in collaboration with us. Here you can see the soil organic carbon content was the highest in the forest ecosystem with 176, whereas coconut it is 91. Home garden, this is HGL, means home garden large, 108, and home garden small, you have more, 119. And rubber plantation is also having 119. But the most interesting aspect is that rice paddy is giving you the lowest, because it is a non-tree system. No trees are there. It is a highly intensively managed system where the inherent soil organic carbon content is very, very less. So there comes the significance of the home gardens. Okay, this is the, here also you can see the forest coconut, because depth wise, if you look at the depth wise, you can see that the interesting aspect with the home gardens is that, for example, these two are home gardens. These two are home gardens. Even up to 80 to 100 centimeter depth, you can see that the home gardens are having reasonably high carbon content. This is contributed by the trees. This is contributed. Whereas you can see here, the paddy is having the lowest at the 80 to 100 meter soil depth. So the interesting aspect is that the trees are able to fertilize the soil even at deeper depths. This is the most interesting thing. I'm going a bit fast. Home gardens and soil diversity. Why home gardens are so important? Why forest ecosystems are so important? Because of the replenishment, because of the cycling, the faster nutrient cycling process that happens. You can see the soil fauna, especially the microbial populations, are very high in the home gardens, and that too in the forest ecosystem also. Whereas in agricultural land, the microbial diversity is very, very less. So productivity is primarily because of these reasons. Now their climate resilience, I told you, home gardens have got a unique property of resilience to the climate. For example, in Kerala, when we had the 2018 floods, one of the system that actually survived the flood in Kerala during that time was the home garden, the tree-dominated home gardens. You take other system, you take coconut, you take paddy, you take all other monocrops. Almost they all have devastated during the floods. But the home gardens was the only one that has survived, primarily because of their resilience, primarily because of their adaptability to the changing climate. Okay, I'm not going to the details of all these things. Gender dimensions is very important because home gardens are run by female members of the family. They are the decision makers as far as the management of the home gardens are concerned. So from that perspective, 52% of the women participate in decision making in selecting species for home gardens. Which species should be planted? Because also their management, harvesting, then their curing, their processing, in all these, the female members have got a pertinent role. Shifting trends in home gardens. Now the home gardens are the present plight of the home gardens is that they are vanishing very, very fast. You can see the paddy, the pristine paddy lands are being converted, and the monoculture based coconut or arecanut plantations are coming in a big way, and the traditional unique home gardens are vanishing very fastly. This is a study which we did recently, not recently. It was a study did in 2001 and 2012. A 10-year difference in the what was the vegetation change. We said the satellite imagery was taken of the same location. These two are of the same location, and you can see how much of a built-in area has come. So this is happening everywhere. So the home gardens are vanishing at a faster rate or alarming rate. This is another example. You can see the home gardens are vanishing. Built-in areas are increasing. Okay, agroforests are coming down. Wetlands are coming down. Okay, and built-in areas are tremendously increasing. These are the things. Home garden, a paradigm shift is required because home gardens are being under attack by various kinds of drivers. Okay, undesirable socio-economic changes, large-scale conversion of the land for non-agricultural purposes, land use changes associated with the poor drainage, health issues. Okay, so the potential drivers of the change, if you look at the whole Indian scenario, you can see urbanization is happening at a very fast rate. Land is getting more and more fragmented. So you cannot go for large scale agricultural activity. Alternate opportunity cost of the land. See, the land value is tremendously increasing. Every moment the land value is increasing. So agriculture probably coming in the lowest layer because there are many other alternate options, cost-effective options are available. So people are drifting away from agriculture. So these are the. So I'm speaking about the trees outside the forest. With this, maybe within 5 minutes, I will stop it. You can see that we have the forest land, the forest boundary is there, and inside the forest boundary, the trees are much protected, well protected. But what about those trees which are outside the forest, or the so-called TOF, trees outside the forest? They often act as orphans because nobody is there to take care of, nobody is there to manage them, nobody is there to give them advice on what tree species to be planted, where to be planted, how the tree husbandry practice to be made. Nothing is there. Productivity is very suboptimal level because farmer is managing. See, the forest department person is interested in planting trees inside the forest. There are social forestry practices, but how many social forestry people know which species to be planted under agroforestry? Because planting, maybe a forest personnel will be able to develop a beautiful teak forest or a sal forest, but he or she may not be able to develop an agroforest because agroforest is a very, very complex system which we need to have a lot of understanding about the functional dynamics and also the interaction between the various tree species. So that is very important thing. National agroforestry policy has been in 2014, it was implemented, but still there is not much headway has been made by the policy. Scientific and organized management protocols are lacking. Tree growing conditions are also very much diverse, and tree crop compatibility issues are there. And again, the most important thing is the lack of institutional mechanism for promoting trees outside the forest. We don't have as such a mechanism, whether forest department is the institution which is responsible or the agriculture department. Agriculture department say, no, trees are not our baby. We don't want trees in the farmlands. The forest department say that, okay, for trees within the within the forest boundary is only our concern. We are not bothered. So that's why I said that the trees in the TOF are still an orphan. Coming to revitalization, we need to percent we are using organic method only. So the products of the home gardens are 90 to 100% they are organic. So we can use the organic label for fetching them some good premium value. Value addition of the home garden is yet another very important thing. So we need to have a judicious blend of a fast and slow growing species. For example, in traditionally people have got a preference for slow growing species which are very costly, like tea, like rosewood, like in the case of deodar and deodar. These are all very, very slow growing species. But now fast growing tree industry is coming in a big way. So this is the tree species suitability for various bund and boundary planting. You can see maybe you are not much interested in it. The conclusion is that humid tropics undergo unusual and undesirable land use changes. And the urbanization and the socio-economic changes, you can see that they are happening at a very alarming pace, and they adversely affect or inversely negatively affect the agricultural productivity. And in addition to that, declining the home garden productivity, tree wealth calls for paradigm shifts because people are not advised on how to manage the trees. There is no institutional mechanism available to manage the trees. So there is a need for strategies for promotion of tree farming and as a profitable option, because home gardens are a unique ecosystem where if you go for some kind of systematic approach, they can be made more productive and in tune with the economic and ecological requirements of the farmer. Awareness on the climate resilience of agroforest and payment for ecosystem services. Now, payment for ecosystem services, because carbon trading has become, the option has become, or its prospects are coming in a big way. And why home gardens can't qualify that? Because there are a large number of tree species in the home gardens which are managed by the family, managed by the farmer. And if there is some return, some ecological benefits from the forest, from that particular household, the farmer need to be given something for not him to cut the tree for the benefit of others. He is not cutting the tree. He need to cut the tree. He has a vision to cut, or he need to cut the tree, but he's not cutting the tree for the sake of others, because he knows that maintaining the trees have got some ecological value. So he deserves some kind of payment for ecosystem services. That's all. Thank you very much. Hello,
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Suhail.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The presentation is open for discussion. If any queries from the participants, clarifications from the participants, they can ask directly, or they can put their queries in the chat box. I was just looking at the chat box. There are no more messages there. So the lecture was truly engaging and very informative. I hope people might have got enough uh, of what is meant by home gardens, what are the various dimensions associated with home gardens. You beautifully depicted various studies that have been conducted vis-a-vis home gardens in India and abroad. Any questions? Any participant wants to interact? I think this is a very good opportunity for all of you to learn more or to clarify any confusion. So there is a one query in chat box by Gururaj Joshi. He uh, has a query that are there any rapid growth models for home garden?
Good question. Uh, Unlike plantations and other kind of systems, home garden is truly a nature-based system. So rapid or any kind of unusual interventions will shatter the quality of the home gardens, or rather the diversity status of the home gardens. So any attempt, for example, nowadays in Kerala, a lot of improvement is coming in the home gardens by way of increasing the number of trees, commercially important species, and the less commercially important tree species are being replaced by commercially important species. Especially bamboos are given a lot of preference nowadays. People are going for bamboos, but we don't advise them to completely remove or cut the home garden, because home gardens, the most important beauty of home garden is the diversity. But maintaining the diversity, how best we can make them economically remunerative is the biggest challenge which we are focusing on. So we are looking at introducing fast-growing tree species. A lot of fast-growing tree species are coming into the home garden boundaries and all. Then commercially very costly fruit trees like rambutan, just like mangosteen, which have been integrated in the home gardens, so that the farmer is getting reasonably good returns. So this way we are trying to revitalize the existing home gardens. But as such, we cannot jump into a massive kind of transformation in the home gardens.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you.
Sir, good evening, sir. This is Ramakrishna
Yeah, please, Ramakrishna ji,
from
please.
Hyderabad.
Yes, please.
Sir, is there any package of practices, meant for this home gardens, area specific or, site specific like that?
Absolutely, we don't have rather development of a package of practice for a home garden is a very, very difficult thing, because you are not developing a home garden. A home garden actually has to be evolved through generations. Maybe if you have a land, you can start with a home garden, right? with diverse tree species, depending upon. We are also attempting so many, but there is no such a package for a. But we have the species package is there. We have our own publications. Recently, 2 publications have come. Entire India, home gardens, the possibility of developing home gardens in some of those eco regions where it is